Hello and welcome to Van Osdol and Farrar's Customer Training Quick Clips. This training series is for our customers to get up and running as quickly as possible with the new Mitel Connect Client. And today I'm actually going to give you the full course, so we'll call this one the complete clip instead of the quick clip. And without further ado, let's get started. Here is the dashboard. Looks a little bit different than the old communicator dashboard did. Doesn't take up quite as much real estate, but does expand depending on what you're doing. So if I click on contacts again, you can see the dashboard opens up as it needs to. Looking at directory, I can also choose to close and therefore minimize the real estate that it uses on my desktop. And I can, as long as I'm logged in, I can also minimize this so that it's completely out of my way and I can do whatever else I need to. So right off the bat, first thing I'm going to demo for you is an inbound call. Inbound calls will provide a pop-up just like the older client did. So we'll demo that for you real quick. Pop-up will probably come right up over the top of me here. There we go. So here's an incoming call. I can choose to ignore that or accept it. If I ignore it, it does go to voicemail. So just like before, you get the pop-up notice. Now then, I did not choose to answer that call because we'll cover that in a little bit later in the class. First thing I wanted to do is just go ahead and start demonstrating the new look, the new user interface, and pointing out where everything is first. Then after that, I'll go through and we'll demonstrate call management, taking a call, placing a call, etc. So let's get started right here at the top with your Connect pull-down menu. This is going to be the pull-down menu where you can get to your settings. You can customize your environment. You can decide to show or use a toolbar. If your company has requested a toolbar, that does require your admin to program various buttons for you that maybe executive assistants, front desks, things like that might need, who do a lot of heavy call management. It's also where you can get additional information. This class today is going to gloss over as much as possible that I can fit into the class, but you always have access from this pull-down menu for your user guide and series of training videos. These two links will actually take you out to the Mitel manufacturer's website for the content that they publish and produce on their products. The user guide itself is the full documentation for this client. It's a PDF document. It's 126 pages now. They just released a new one. So that's helpful to have. You can save that to your computer and have it at the ready at all times. In addition, Mitel is currently working on updating their training videos. This is a mitel.learn now link to their website where you can find all manner of content on the telephones, voicemail, this client, etc. So again, up underneath the pull-down menu here at the very top is where you can customize your environment through your settings, where you can use your toolbar and get additional information when you need it. Here at the top of your client, now this name or number entry here is your directory. That is everything that is assigned in your phone system for your company. And if you have multiple locations, it probably includes all of those folks as well. You do not need to click up in this banner, though, in order to activate the directory. It does work if you do that. However, I've discovered a neat little Easter egg recently that wherever you are, as long as you have the client forward, just start typing. It automatically takes you to that section of the dashboard. And that's a handy speed tip. So once you find someone, whenever you look someone up in your business directory, ask yourself whether or not you think this is going to be somebody that you'll work with on a regular basis. If so, go ahead and click this little star next to their name. Clicking that star is making them a favorite. Making them a favorite automatically populates your contact list with that person. So now we see Gary is here in my list. What's nice about this contact list is that you get availability state information on everyone, you get whatever's published in the directory for everyone, etc. So very nice. So again, either click in the directory or wherever you are, if you happen to be in Recents or out of Recents, just start typing. The more you type, the more it reduces your entire directory down to just that matches. In fact, you'll see on screen here that it actually bolds the letters that matched my criteria. So each time you type a letter, it concatenates that and does an extra search for you. So there you go. Now, to the left of this is a number dial pad. Not exactly sure where you would use this, to be honest, but maybe if you're making long distance calls through your client and you have to enter a long distance code or something, you can come up here and click those digits to enter that code. If you didn't want to reach for your phone, or if your phone was buried in paperwork or something. So that is your directory. Moving on down the list, we'll talk about the self or station assignment information. This is basically what appears in the top of your phone. If you have a 230 or a 485 or 480, something like that, you'll see this information in the top of the display of your telephone. It tells you what the station assignment is and what the extension number is. And you can change the availability state on your phone. You've been familiar with using that do not disturb information for your phone. You can set that information from here as well. What's nice about this new client is they've given you a little bit extra editing features. So instead of just saying available, you can click the little pencil icon next to that and alter the text that is there. And you can see here, I'm having a little bit of fun with this one, putting some information in there. This information is published to the directory so that the next time someone looks you up, if you have put your phone in one of these states, they will see not just the primary category of that state, they will see what you have edited. Custom is a good one, where you not only get a chance to alter the text, but you can choose which color represents your availability state. Are you working on an offsite location but you're available, or busy or unavailable? You get to pick and choose. So this is a nice little area for setting your availability state information from your client instead of your phone. Now, what's nice about this, and I'll show you how you can do this later, we'll talk about customizing your environment. The other thing that's nice about having these 5 different do not disturb states is that you can modify your call routing and you can modify the greeting that pertains to that particular state. So you can modify each one of these to work differently for you, appropriate to what you need. Over here to the right-hand pane that expanded when I clicked on my information here, you get an opportunity to upload a picture. And the only way to upload a picture currently is to have an account with LinkedIn. What this will do, if you click Upload Picture, it will tell you about linking in. Now, it does not keep your information. All it does is provide a hook into the LinkedIn website to grab that photo that you would have posted there. I showed you a moment ago under the Connect Pulldown Menu option for settings. This is how you can customize your environment, but also know that this little gear here takes you to the same place. Additional information that you have here is your desk phone is your current assignment. If you have a laptop, if you are licensed for soft phone, you can use your laptop as your phone. To do that, you would have to have wireless access to a network. You would have to have connectivity back to your home office, or VPN connectivity, it's called. So you can use a soft phone license if you have one, but you will require networking back to your home office for it to function. What this does is effectively turns off your telephone, makes your laptop your phone. Now, last but not least here, and I won't go into too much about the bridge information that you see here. That does require extra appliances, so whether or not you have conferencing, we'll handle that separately. But external assignment number, consider this a send all calls, or maybe what used to be called call forwarding. I'll show you in a little bit how you can add additional destinations for your inbound calls so that they don't just ring your desk phone and that's it. And that's the preferred method today instead of the old-fashioned way, which was send all calls or call forwarding. What those methods do is they take the call away from your business system and they send it to whatever destination you chose. If you're using a cell phone, for example, and you decide not to answer that call, then your cellular carrier carries the voicemail instead of the business system at the office. If that still works for you and you don't mind maintaining two different voicemail systems, then by all means, go for it. But I will show you an alternative method, which is actually the preferred method today, of just adding an additional destination for your ringing. All right, that's the section for yourself and the options that you have here. We'll move on down the list of contacts. We talked about that just a moment ago. And once you have gone through your directory, picked all your favorite colleagues, you'll end up with a list similar to this. And there's a couple of different ways that I can sort this and organize this. If I have a very large organization, a lot of people that I've put into my contacts list, then I might want to change the view from list to compact. Now, I don't have a whole lot of folks in here, so it doesn't seem to make sense for me, but you can see how I still get folks' availability state information here. I can see who's out of the office, I can see who's in a meeting, and who's available. So even before I tried to place a call to those folks, I can see their availability state. And again, as we discussed earlier, you choose what your availability state is over here. That's how this information gets published so that people can view it. Now, to place a phone call to these folks, all I have to think about is their name. I don't really need to know their extension anymore. I just double click their name and I've activated my desk phone to place that call to them. If I want additional information, I can always stay in list view because list view gives me additional information. Now then, if I have a whole lot of folks, then I can choose groups. So now I've stepped over to the groups function and I can collapse all my groups so that I really don't need to scroll through here either. I can just keep all these groups collapsed and then expand them as I want to. I can click this little icon here to edit a group. And if I have conferencing, I also have instant messaging, I can actually start a text or a chat with the entire group. This is a nice feature. But clicking on Edit Group allows you to modify the name or add additional members. Once I find somebody, I can drag them over, or I can go ahead and click inside the little membership bar there, type there, and then pick who I want. Very easy to maintain groups. So there you have it, contacts list, basically your Rolodex. You can have a list of favorites. You can change the list views. You can change the sort order. I have a lot of options here on sorting. In fact, with groups, one of the sort orders that I like is my order. This way I can organize these the way I want to see them and not alphabetically by part of the name. Moving on down to recent, this is the same as pushing the recent phone on your or button on your telephone. It's all calls made to your extension, all calls made from your extension, and even calls that you've missed. So here we're looking at the entire list. Some icons that you see here are arrows pointing in or pointing out, or little broken arrows. Those represent calls that have been missed. You even have the opportunity up here in the top to go ahead and look at just missed calls. So that's kind of handy. Moving on down to voicemail. With the voicemail system, you have some administration here. You have about 1 hour retention or 1 hour storage for your mailbox, which is plenty. It works in 98% of our customers. Know that that can be adjusted on a per person basis if you need to. Secondly, if you delete voicemails, then you will have 24 hours to change your mind. So if a message comes in, you decide to delete it, as long as it is not aged 24 hours, you'll have the chance to get that back. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate an inbound call, and I'm going to send that call straight to voicemail by ignoring it here. It goes straight to voicemail. I'm just going to talk for a quick sec, hang up. So now I have that voicemail. So now what I can do is go ahead and play that message. And what I wanted to point out while I'm playing this message is that if I need to repeat a section, if you log into voicemail, it's called skip back or skip forward functions. All you have to do is click in the progress bar, and that will have the message repeated for you from wherever you click that progress bar. So as I play this message, so there you go. You can play DJ or repeat that important information that you missed the first time around. I mentioned deleting the voicemail. Once you delete the voicemail, it simply puts it into this deleted folder. If you do change your mind, simply click on that folder, find the restore button, and restore that message. That puts it back in. Something else that you can do with this is actually forward. This is a nice feature for forwarding this message to someone else internally. You get your directory, you get to pick who you want, and then you can also record your own voice, what I call recording a preface or introducing the message. Hey Gary, this is John. This message came to me, but we need your help. Can you go ahead and handle this? Blah, blah, blah. Now, before I click the record button, I do want to point out that you have the option of either using your telephone to record your audio or your computer microphone. So make this designation first before you hit the record button, and then just send it on its way. That is voicemail. And the next section here, messaging and events, may or may not actually show up in your screen. This is instant messaging. If you have purchased conferencing features and services, that does require an additional appliance and some additional licensing, but if you have purchased that for your company, then you will see these items appear here. So real quickly, I'll just gloss over those. That for any contact that you have in your system, in addition to the availability information or making a phone call to them, if they happen to be on the phone or in a meeting or something, you would have this little text window. So we could do texting down here or chatting, instant messaging. And one last little Easter egg before we leave contacts. If he was on the phone, but I really needed his attention, I could do a right click to get a context menu in various places within this new client. You can play around with right click option to see if there's any other features hidden there. Alert when available is a nice feature. What that's going to do is I don't have to monitor my contacts list to wait until he gets off the phone. The system will do it for me. So if I select this option, as soon as Timothy were to get off the phone, I would get that same little pop-up that you see when a new call comes in. It'll say Timothy is now available, and it will give me a little button so that I can call him right then and there by clicking that button. So that's a handy feature too. I'm going to drop down to work groups now. Work groups is also a section that is dependent upon whether or not you use it. It does not require an appliance or any additional licensing. So if your company uses work groups where you have one central number where calls come in, and then you have agents who log into that to pull calls out, kind of like a call center light, if you will, those are called work groups. And so the way those would function is whatever work groups you were a member of, you would have the option of logging in, logging out, etc. So these bottom three items may not show up for all of our customers. It just depends on your setup, your provisioning, and what you've purchased and licensed for your environment. So let's go ahead and do a demonstration of a phone call, as I did a minute ago. And I'll go ahead and answer this time. So notice that I have the little pop-up. So if I had the client minimized, I wouldn't necessarily see the line appearance over here. But I'm going to go ahead and accept this call. And pardon the feedback. I'll go off hook here. And so now we have, I'll minimize that. Now we have the call active. I'm actually carrying out the conversation. So routing slip information down here at the bottom of the line appearance is telling me who called whom. And I have a little timer. And I have the opportunity to go ahead and hang up this call, put it on hold, or mute my line. I'm in an office, so if someone barges in, doesn't realize because I'm hands-free that I'm on the phone, I can quickly mute my line and take care of that real quick. Now, if I want the additional telephony features available to me than just these three, all I have to do is click once on the active call, and you can see the dashboard opens up again. And now I have the rest of my telephony features right here. I still have the caller ID information. I still have the opportunity to hang up or put it on hold, but now I can do other things. If this is a colleague with inside the company, I can do things like share my screen. Sharing my screen allows me to share either an application or just a piece of my screen. It gives me a little green bounding box that I can move around. Or share my entire screen. So if we're talking about a contract or a proposal or something like that, I can quickly share my screen, get my colleagues' feedback, and move on. In addition, if it's more appropriate during this conversation that I add a participant, ad hoc conferencing we call it, I can quickly do that. I simply click Add Participant, search for who I'm looking for, and once I pick the person, then I can choose how do I want to conference them in. Conference alone is actually considered a blind conference. I do not recommend using blind conference unless you know that person's at their desk and they're prepared to take your call and prepared to be on conference as soon as they answer. I prefer the consult method. What that does is it puts the original party on hold, gives me a private call path to the next person I'm wanting to recruit to our conversation. That way, I get a chance to say, hey, Gary, I've got so-and-so on the line. We need your help. Can you join us for a quick minute? Hang on, I'll bridge us together. So that's a handy process. Now, if he says, I'm not available, call Joe instead, no problem. I can just click the X there to cancel out of that process and go back to add and look for someone else. If I change my mind and decide, you know what, I'll cancel that. I'm now back to my original caller. I can say, Gary's not available, but he said Joe can help you. I'm going to go ahead and transfer you to Joe's line. He may not be available, but just leave him a message. So if I want to switch to transfer, I click on this icon and use the same process. I find who I'm looking for. And once I've picked who, I then decide what or how. This button is a blind transfer. That might be appropriate. I just wanted to go straight to their extension, and if they don't answer, their voicemail picks up, and that's good. Or I could go ahead and do the consultative process for a transfer as well. Puts the original caller on hold, gives me a private call path to the next party. I can explain I'm about to transfer this call to you. Now, if I happen to know through availability information, if this were red for Jeremy, I could let the caller know that, and then I can come in here and actually go straight to voicemail. So that's an option as well. So all of the telephony features that you have from your desk phone are right here in the client. So if you're in an office, speakerphone is not going to upset your neighbors. Feel free to be hands-free. You can do everything with this client as you could working with the interface of the telephone itself. One last thing I'll point out here is this little icon. This is a nice little feature that lets you be mobile within your office. I've started this conversation on my desk phone here, but if I needed to move about my building, I don't need to put the caller on hold and make them wait for me until I get back. Instead, I can say I need to go downstairs, I need to go out to the warehouse, I need to do whatever. I'll just click this Move Call button. What that does is it will move the conversation from my desk phone to my cell phone. That way I can carry out the conversation down the hall, etc. What's nice about this feature is it does work two ways. So when I get back to my desk, I click this button again, and it will hang up the call from my cell phone and put it back on my desk phone. So I can finish out the conversation in my office. So this is a nice feature as well. I believe that's about it for here, so I'll go ahead and hang up this call and get back to the regular dashboard. Now let's make an outbound call. As I mentioned earlier, this Rolodex, personal contacts list is great for making phone calls. You don't need to, obviously you want to make calls to folks outside the house as well as inside the house. Know that with email integration enabled, you do have the opportunity to find, by searching your directory, both folks inside your organization and in your Outlook contacts list. So you can make favorites of those as well. So you can either go to the directory window up here at the top, or just start typing a number, et cetera, to make a phone call if you want to do it that way. Or you can go to your contacts list, pick somebody by name, and simply double click their name. Now, in addition to double clicking their name, you also have, if you are in list view, their extension or their cell. Clicking once on either of those calls that number for you. So I will make, actually I won't go ahead and make, I didn't prepare anybody for receiving a phone call from me. Now let's pick on Dan. He's on vacation. We should get his voicemail. I'm going to go ahead and call his extension. So there we go. One-touch calling to anyone in our organization, or possibly a contact list recipient that I manage in Outlook. So that is placing outbound calls. Real nice and simple. So let's go ahead and talk about customizing your environment. I mentioned earlier that up under Connect Pulldown Menu was Settings, or if you click on your own information, clicking the little gear takes you to a settings window. Here is your settings window. And so let's walk through the settings that are available to you, and possibly some customizations that you would want to do in your own environment. Right at the top, I'll start with account. This is the area where you can change the password that you use for your Connect client. So if your IT folks provided you a generic password like 1234 or ABC or something like that, and you want it to be more secure than that, then you would simply type in your your initial password, type in your new password, and there you go. Access tab. This is probably best suited for executives, those who have assistants, or maybe a sales team who wants the front desk or an executive assistant to be able to maintain their availability states for them. You can select yes, actually don't worry about that part, but go ahead and just type in the name of someone you want to have that opportunity to. If you leave the office, forgot to put yourself in out of office, you can call back to them and say, stick me in out of office, please. So that's how that works. AD credentials. This is possibly necessary if you're doing email integration, syncing contacts, using voicemail notifications to your email account. You may need to put in your Active Directory account, which is your Exchange email account information here. Moving on to call routing. This is a big area where folks can customize their own call routing and their own greetings based on the availability state they choose. So we talked about all the different do not disturb states that you have. They're right here, in a meeting, out of office, etc. So if I wanted to modify one of these, first thing I would do is pick the state I want to modify. Now, if I wanted to just go through the wizard, I could click the Start Wizard here. What that will do is walk me through everything that I'm allowed to modify for this availability state. If I know what I want to change, I can go straight to it by clicking one of these change buttons. So in this case, when I put my phone in custom do not disturb state, I want two things to happen. I want to change my call routing, so I'm going to click change here. And I'm going to tell it to include a phone. So if I had none of this filled out, I could create a list here of all the different phones that I want to manage. Maybe I have a home office. Maybe I have multiple offices with business, and I'm going to be working at a different one. I can enter all these different phone numbers here, and then I can pick and choose which one I want, and then tell the system, use that number. So when I click Save, what I've done is said, when someone calls my main published number, ring me at my desk, and I've added the additional destination of my cell. So now I have choices. Whatever caller ID comes to my desk phone will come to my cell phone, and I can make a choice as to whether or not I want that call. I didn't have to send the call to my cell. I just told my cell to be included as an additional destination. That way, if I choose not to answer that call on my cell, the business voicemail system keeps the call and will answer the call. The next thing I want to do is modify the greeting. I want to tell folks who land in my voicemail what's going on with me and maybe why they've landed in my voicemail. So I click that change button to get here. And if I had no greeting recorded, it would say record greeting here. Instead, it says record new greeting. I can play my old one to see if it still applies, or I could go ahead and click record new. Before I do that, just like in playback of voicemail, I wanted to let you know that you can either pick your telephone to record your voice or use your computer microphone. So make that choice first. To record a greeting, just simply click the record or record new. Make your choice here for audio, and then click the record button and commence your greeting. We're modifying custom mode for me, so I might say I am working off-site or I am with a customer today, etc., etc. Once I'm done, I save those changes, and now I've modified or customized my own environment, my call routing and my voicemail greeting to suit me for today or this week or what have you. It'd be very similar if you went to vacation. Maybe I don't want any phones to ring simultaneously to my desk phone, but I just want to drop down and provide a specific greeting for when I'm on vacation. This would be how you do it. So now the only thing I need to remember is to come back to my client or from my phone, choose that state and what my condition is, maybe add some additional text, and there we go. Now the changes that I've just made over here for custom will take effect. So this is an area in settings that you might come to on a frequent basis. Real quickly, I'll also cover additional customization that you can do. You can create power rules. A lot like creating Outlook rules for inbound email. If this particular person sends me an email, always forward it to that person or always trash it or something. You can do the very same thing with power routing. I won't go into the details here because it's really one of those variable things. Everyone has a different scenario, a different case. Just simply create new power rule and then decide what your name is, how you want to describe it, and then whether it's a number match or the number they dialed. Maybe you have multiple published numbers or something. You can base it on your availability state or time of day, day of week even. And then you can pick what you want to do. Forward that call to voicemail or to another extension, etc. Last but not least is mobile. If you have acquired the licensing for mobility and your system has been configured for it, in addition to or as an alternative to using your cell phone as an additional destination, you can use what's called a mobility app. It's a desktop app or a mobile phone app that can be downloaded from your app store. And what that does is actually turn your cell phone into your desk phone. So you can make calls from your cell phone that make it look like you're in your office or calling from your company. You can use your directory. So it's a miniature version of the client on your cell phone. Moving on down to voicemail. You have a couple of options here you might want to customize. First and foremost, setup. If you need to set yourself a new voicemail password, this is where you would come, put your current password in, and set your new voicemail password. Now, this would be the numeric password that you would typically use when dialing into voicemail. This is not your client password. The next one is the Outlook tab, and this is one of two methods of integrating voicemail to email. So I could choose this option to turn on notifications so that anytime I get a new voicemail, it sends a notification to my email, my Outlook email. Now in Outlook, that notification message is going to have a little embedded player. So I can simply click on that player and listen through my computer speakers that actual voicemail. Now, if I delete that notification, be advised you also delete the original voicemail and vice versa. So if I go to the voicemail system by phone or through my client and I delete that voicemail, it will in turn delete that email notification. So it works two ways. Some folks like this because it gives them an opportunity to listen to voicemail from email and manage voicemail from email. What I like more so, and I'm going to drop down a few steps, is notifications gives you an alternative voicemail tab that allows you to set a different kind of notification method. In this method, when I get a new voicemail, I get an attachment. It is a WAV format file, so I can keep that. It is separate from the original voicemail. So I can save that to my network. I can rename it something appropriate, customer-topic, and I can keep it with other important customer files. So if important information, certainly legal information or something like that, is contained within that audio, this option allows you to keep a copy of it and then delete the original voicemail and not worry about it. We talked about instant messaging earlier. That's really contingent upon whether your company acquired that. So that in video, I'll skip over. Those require additional appliances and licensing, etc. The Outlook tab, if you want to sync with your calendar, you can go in and out of different availability states automatically. So if you're going to have a meeting and that meeting is in your Exchange calendar, then your phone can go into in a meeting availability state automatically. You don't have to set that. Here's where you can set integrate with your Outlook contacts as well. Dropping down to desk phone next, we'll go over just a couple of quick items. If you have a IP485 or 655, you actually can customize your wallpaper, your desktop pattern for those. There's a couple of options here. And your ringtone. If you want your phone to ring differently than your neighbors or your nearby colleagues, select ringtone here. Novelty usually wears off in about 8 minutes on this. There's just a few options for you. Again, we talked about soft phone earlier. Soft phone is a license required type of feature, but you tell it what on your computer is installed for the microphone and the speaker. And then the last couple of options here under settings, telephony, you have maximum number of concurrent calls. Typically this is set to 8. If you want to drop it down to 2 or 3, it just limits how many active call paths will come at you before going to your voicemail. And also this is the section where you could turn on that routing slip information. I showed you earlier during an active call, a little routing slip info of who called whom. This is how you turn that information on or off. And language, typically English only, is installed on your system here in the States. So one last thing I'm thinking of, I'll pop back up to notifications. I did not cover sounds and pop-up for you, but here that information is. Again, under notifications, you can change sounds that play from your computer here. So if you did have instant messaging, you can set an alert for that. Plays a certain sound. If you want to know through an audible alert that you got a voicemail in addition to your LED blinking on your telephone, you could do that as well. Just simply to change it from what function is happening and whether or not to play an alert, and then which alert you want it to play. Again, limited options on the sound files, but ways to add audible alerts. Last one here is pop-up. Pop-up is that little, when a call comes in, how long do you want it to last? Do you even want it on there? I have had a customer say, I just don't want that. So this is how you would turn it off if you didn't want it. This is how you can decide how long it lasts. So just a couple of options there. And so there you go. That's your settings area and all of the different areas where you can customize or tailor your environment to suit your needs. Again, this is the look and feel of the new dashboard, much more modern application, much more feature rich and fully functional. And thank you for sticking with this lengthy complete course video. This covers most of the basics. Remember that you always have access to additional information right here under your Pulldown Connect menu. For your user guide, complete guide, PDF format, the alternative, training videos, takes you out to Mitel's website and all of the content that they publish for themselves. One other thing I'll show you before I let you go, you were already here, but as our website changes, be sure to check out vanalsdell.com training, because I too will continue to produce videos for you over time on Mitel Client and maybe other items. Feel free to give me your feedback and let me know what you would like to see a class on. So again, thanks for your time and happy Mitel clienting. Take care.